Okay, and I just want to make sure. I mean, I've been down in Appalachia before. Kudzu,
Yeah, kudzu.
kudzu. Okay, perfect. Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry. Good day, and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday, always asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dave.
And today we have with us the author of Kudzu and I Know Nothing But the Night, as well as many more. But those two titles make sense considering they are a southern transplant whose partner is the moon, Clem Flowers. Welcome to My Bad Poetry.
Thank y'all both for having me. Big fan of the show. Really excited to be on here. I think it's gonna be fun.
Well, big fan of the show. That makes one of us. So.
Clem, you have your profile. You're a southern transplant. So where'd you grow up and where are you now?
Oh yeah, I'm originally from Georgia, and then oh gosh, about 7 years, a little over 7 years now. Moved out here to Utah with my sweet husband Moon.
Nice.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
And you have a cat named Luna?
Yeah. We got her. It was kind of the universe working out good sort of situation. Moon, they had a long dead another calico, funny enough, who sadly passed not too long before we got Luna. And then went to volunteer. I worked at Netflix customer service. Don't recommend it as a job. But they did set us up at a nice little humane shelter to clean up and stuff. And I was working on cleaning one of the little kitty areas, and she just hopped up in my lap and just kind of politely screamed at me, and then I got a cat.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Is she named after her papa?
It's kind of funny because like Moon came upon his name after just wanting to toss the dead name and trying to find something that they felt suited them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Luna, we're just both big astrology fans. Both in the just enjoy the constellations and like a little bit more me than him. But I mean, he's got a bunch of tarot decks, but I like a little bit about the Gemini and Mercury and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Oh, lovely. Well, is there anything in that very brief intro that I might have missed that you want to tell our dear listeners about yourself?
Well, I mean, I think you covered a good chunk of it. I mean, I do always like to point out, not like it's my whole identity, but I think, having this kind of stuff out there does mean a lot to folks because I know it means a lot to me, but I identify as non-binary, so I just wanted to put that on there.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think that is important representation. I know some folks who just appreciate that kind of, identity representation matters. So, yeah. But on this little show, we're here to talk about bad poetry.
Oh, yeah.
So, Dave, how about you bring us into the realm of bad poetry?
Okay.
I've
got a limerick for today because, of course, I do. I'm calling it refracting, reflecting, rebounding.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah.
Money swirls in a slew of segments. Hosts state their love for adjacent. Other podcasts they promote on their podcasts, which they quote, podcast on podcast advertisement.
I like that.
Yeah. That was a pretty good one, Dave.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was an ad break, and there were 6 ads in the ad break, and 5 of them were for podcasts.
Shoot.
So, how does this market work where podcasts advertise on other podcasts for a different podcast in their podcasting podcast? I don't get it.
They could just pay themselves.
Okay, it's like the old snake Ouroboros, the snake eats the tail.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. I do know that market research, people who listen to podcasts, They do like listening to podcasts.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because I enjoy listening to podcasts, but I also don't enjoy listening to our podcast. So
that's
I don't
understandable.
know. I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, Clem, you've given us some good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Do we have 2 or 3? There's a bolded section in the middle.
I I think I know what happened there. That it's technically 3.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we have more to choose from. Okay, which one do you want to kick us off with?
Since you mentioned it, I do think I'd like to do the one with the big old section. I think that'd be kind of fun to start with.
The big whole bolded section it is. Okay, Clem.
Love it.
Without any explanation, give us this poem, and then we'll dive in.
Okay. Home in which you're left wandering to all the places you used to go with him. You always thought you hated eating at the restaurants you ate at one time and swore you never would again after you watched him leave without looking back out the windows one time and you did all you could at the time not to cry. That's why no one still knows who threw all those rocks, all those townhomes still being built, and now you're sloshing back home with a belly full of grease, head stuffed with misery, and hours on hours till the sun is up, staring at the wall, thinking about nothing, static in your skull as you remember it used to be him that struggled with insomnia. That's funny, ain't it?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing my best to parse this and make sense, but what?
That's I, a lot of about 90% of my stuff is first draft is in the notebook, and I didn't want to try to come church it up. I will be totally honest. There may have been a beer 3 involved when I wrote that.
Okay.
But kind of notated on there, just kind of thinking back of what it was. Basically, I thought I'd try to be cute with the format and make the whole poem be the title rather than vice versa. But
Right.
yeah.
That explains it. Okay. So
Yeah.
the bolded paragraph is a play on the title, and then the poem, quote unquote, is Life's Funny, Ain't It? I get it.
I like that poem.
That's
I like
hilarious.
Life's Funny.
Okay. This block text here that you have bolded for us, there are some very interesting choices. Even for a quote unquote title, there are only a few words out of the whole thing that are capitalized. We have poem, hymn, misery, and nothing. Are you doing some sort of like E.E. Cummings type thing here, or where was your head
That
at?
was the thought. I kind of worked that into my other I have taken that trope and kind of worked it in
Sure.
to my other stuff that I'm more putting the book proud of. But it was a bit of E.E. Cummings, and then I know the name's kind of verboten, and it's a red flag if that's your favorite author. But I was finally getting through Infinite Jest, and I did like his running trope of making proper nouns out of just random words, seemingly, but giving them importance in the text. So.
No.
Fascinating. I've never touched that book. Is it worth it? What do you think?
I will say it is a good book.
Okay.
You do have to. There are parts where it's like he's very much. I am very smart, and I want you all to know that. And it's like,
Right.
okay, David. Okay, mate. There's like a whole. If people are listening, and I am very sorry if they know this book, there's a whole section that's like a game the kids at this private tennis academy made up that he goes in like painstaking detail in the footnotes and like writes. I'm like, somebody should have checked on you, man.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh,
boy.
I will say when I read through it before you read it to us, and in my accent, poem in which you're left wandering. It felt very known to me, but when you said it, you elongated that A, and so it kind of had that wandering, wondering dichotomy for me. I thought, oh, this is it. Oh no, I don't think that's intentional. I think it's just yeah.
It's part of the accent. Part of it's going for a stylistic choice, and part just the way the words come out sometimes.
I get it.
I think that stylistic drawl, especially with that belly full of grease,
Yeah.
that was it, that line just stood out. It's really nice. Is this about a breakup?
Yeah, it was basically, well, not to get too heavy immediately, but I'll be honest, I remember this very vividly. I had worse poetry and then I burned it.
Oh, well.
This is after I got out of, I was at a mental health facility because I got hospitalized with a suicide attempt. So I kind of, working through that as part of the therapy, was talking out and writing out some feelings about some kind of big, with the capital B, proper noun, big moments in my life. And one of them was I was dating a man for a while, and it was like the first ever real relationship I ever had. And we were we were secret gay in a very conservative small town. It was very unusual. But then we kind of drifted apart, still friends, but more or less he just tried to downplay our friendship and everything in a relationship when he met a woman. And I got invited to the wedding, and then it was just a ugly scene I don't want to go into. But,
Sure.
Yeah, so that's partly just kind of working through that. That's where that kind of came from.
But I imagine like the heartache and the ways in which feeling that emotion. Okay, the picture I have in my head, correct me if I'm wrong. You're in the booth, and then there's like this conversation, you're sitting across from each other, and then he gets up and leaves. And it's kind of at that point where it's agreed, we're done. And then you're just left there with a belly full of greasy food and heartbreak.
That's a bullseye, definitely.
Okay.
And, for the extra southern points, it was a Waffle House to really set the
Oh,
picture
that
for
makes
you.
sense. That makes sense.
This is a really powerful image then.
Dave, do we have Waffle Houses in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Okay,
There's a couple.
There's a couple. Yeah, that was a staple in Ohio. So I don't see them as much up here. But okay. Yep. It's trouble if the Waffle House is closed.
Yes.
And yet it was open for this tragedy.
See, Aaron, this is even for you. That was pretty pedantic.
That was pretty bad. Okay, that's fair.
I enjoyed it. I was just to say, again, like I said, I'm a fan, so I'm easy to,
Thank you, Clem.
I thought that was good.
Thank you.
Don't encourage him, Clem.
Now, remind me, life's funny, ain't it? That's a famous sentiment or a line. That is that in a movie or something?
I believe so. I couldn't tell you which one offhand. I just growing up where I did, it's kind of a constant refrain to like when just bad or shitty things happen. Just both sides of my family just kind of approach things with humor, like just kind of a gallows humor sometimes.
Mm-hmm. There is a cutting darkness to some of that on the surface, like, oh, bless your heart, life's funny, ain't it? Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Wow. Okay. We've looked at how this is a funny play on a very long title and a short poem. I'm curious what else you see in this, admittingly very rough draft, not churched up. What do you see in this that makes you go, ugh?
I think the biggest thing that I'm just like, I know what I was going for, but it's just a big old swing and a miss. I was going for something just kind of that quiet desolation sort of thing. You get like the really good Southern Gothic kind of stuff, like
Mm.
Faulkner and Fitzgerald a little bit, and then Capote, before, pre in Cold Blood. But I think it just kind of wandered over into like this maudlin soap opera, like middle of season 2, Twin Peaks, kind of like okay, you're making pick runners now. Okay, that's cool.
I love that. That's that's such a good. So not quite Faulkner, but yeah, middle season Twin Peaks. Okay, that's a good take on this. Because it's a title, you don't have any punctuation in this.
Yeah.
If you were to go at this again, would you keep with the same title shtick?
I think if I was to go at it again, I wouldn't go as long on the title because I do genuinely enjoy writing those kind of like train of thought run on kind of sentence poems.
Sure.
But I think I'd maybe parse the words a bit better and then kind of maybe cut it by half, like give it a real good shellac, and then maybe put some. Like I still would like to keep most of the title be the poem, and then the laugh's funny, and I definitely like to do that.
Sure.
But yeah, I would probably cut it down. Controlled burn.
Control.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, like that. Like the kudzu.
Exactly. That is a thing I don't like. It is funny because people have said very nice things about the book, and it's so funny because they're like, I have like poetry friends live in Ohio, and but some that live more in the Midwest, like Iowa and the Dakotas, and some folks out here at Utah. They're like, I've never seen kudzu, and I looked up. I was like, that's a car got swallowed up by it. Like, yep, those big kudzu not sell.
Yeah, it's
I
insane.
make the point like this is I vividly remember this my late writing. She told me like again, exaggerating for effect, but I just remember this vividly like, don't you touch that kudzu, it'll suck the air right out you. And I like pour and I was like, ugh, like jump back, there's a snake in it.
Yeah, it's something to see.
It really is.
We'll talk more about kudzu a little later, but
Sure.
let's get back to another one of these lovely poems. We're now left with more reasonable titles here. We got Flask of Salt or Perched Rock. Which one are you feeling right now?
What I think, just because Flask of Salt kind of hits some of the similar kind of mood music, as it were, of Longfellow there. I'll do Perched Rock.
Perfect.
Ligatures of starshine tie me to the pregnant sun. Weaknesses waking from when we smash those Coke bottles in the movie theater parking lot. Dumb fun that barely makes the worries of the horrors of the world stay away. But when it works, the world, the heat, your heart all just shivers in the relentless stones.
Okay, Clem, we're going to need some context because I think from Dave and my expressions,
Aaron needs context. I completely understand. I think you and I are on this. Yep, I get it. But for Aaron, please explain.
So this is one that I think everybody that does creative things have some that like you've shown it to some friends and it's like, no, it's good. It's like I like that, but it's that thing of I don't like that. Like and it's not trying to like add a boy myself or anything, but look at it like objectively I don't think anything's terribly wrong with it, but it feels like I'm trying too hard. Like I kind of mentioned on the it was like written around the time I like realized like I'm gonna reach out and grab the world and show my poems. And I was like, I need to research like the real poets. And I was reading Dylan Thomas and Audre Lorde and Edna St. Vincent Millay. And then this happened. And I was like, oh no. Look.
Yeah, I fell into End of St. Vincent Millay pretty recently when I was looking up end poems for this show, and I love
Yeah.
that stuff. But I could see the sprinklings of that in here, and I mean I don't think you're too off. I can see where friends and other people might be like, I like this.
Mhm.
I think it's one of those like one of my favorite artists ever is Jean-Michel Basquiat,
Oh, sure.
and I saw a clip of him like there's not too much like footage of him, but somebody's filming him like working on a painting. He's like, "Oh, that one's already sold." Like, that was great. He's like, "No, look at the brushstrokes here. It's terrible." It's like I think like it's that like when you know like where all the like you can kind of see behind the set on the play like where all the duct tape is holding the beams.
Sure.
Okay. No, no.
Well, and it definitely it it hits the ears very nicely.
Yes.
Like your voice really lends itself to reading this poem for some reason. It's almost like you wrote it for yourself. But but like the steadiness of your voice, especially those long pauses of but when it works, it feels good and it leaves a lot to imagine. But then I have no idea if I'm imagining anything that you're imagining.
I do love writing those kind of. The way I like to describe it is like I like to write those poems. It's like sometimes they find those little loopholes on that show, like Fairly Odd Parents, before it got weird and CGI. But Timmy would say something, and they're just like, "That's just vaguely specific enough to work." So, like that's like my sweet spot of writing poems.
Yeah.
Vaguely specific.
And the other thing I like is I do like to write those kind of things. One of my friends, Brandon, oh my gosh, his last name escapes me, but he helped start that magazine Only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were working on something together, and he made a point that I was like, I haven't heard it articulate, but that's how I feel too. He's like, the best poems to me are like when you like ride the line between just abstract, magical, what are they talking about, and then a diary entry. Like if you can like
That's a good, yeah.
Yeah, it has the specificity that you need, but you can imprint what you want into it. I like that.
exactly back to
Yeah.
Twin Peaks, kind of like David Lynch movies.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. You're seeking to write a David Lynch poem. Now,
I don't know if I could do that.
because you're talking about specific vagueness, Coke. Are you actually referring to Coca-Cola here?
Yes, never.
Okay.
The hardest drugs I've ever done is weed.
No, not
No.
so.
I know.
But
Yeah, no. I've seen the smashed up Coke bottles too, like both kind of Coke bottles. I get it.
but I love that you went there. No, I was thinking like in the South, every soda or pop is called Coke.
Oh, yeah. No, that's. uh, I went to Atlanta a lot, and I lived there for a while, so I was used to seeing both kinds of smashed Coke bottles.
Sure.
Fair.
Yeah.
But no, I have explained that to my husband. Like, they came out to visit me before I moved out here, and it was funny because we went to like Quick Trip, which is just Southern 7-Eleven,
Yep.
and I was like, I'm gonna get a fountain drink. I'm gonna get a Coke. What kind of Coke? I want the orange soda, and he just looked so puzzled. It's like, what is that? I was like, right, I forget that's not a thing. It's
Right.
that. Then the time we were going shopping in here, and this is like right after I moved out, and I asked to go. I was like, I'm gonna get the buggy. I'll meet you inside. And he said, the buggy? Yeah, the
Oh.
buggy. Oh, wait, we're in the parking lot, and he says, what do you mean the buggy? And I'm like, make him to push the cart, like oh. He's like, I'm thinking like the Wells Fargo wagon.
So I take it then that they are not from the South.
No, born and raised out here in Utah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense
There
then.
you go. Very different. So you said you kind of see the duct tape behind this poem. Elaborate on that. What is there that's like your hang up for this?
Specifically for me, it's honestly those, like, I do like the way they flow, but those first two lines, just the ligatures up to like right before the Coke bottles line,
Mm-hmm.
um, I like fiddled with that so much. I felt like I was trying to build a model airplane, and I was like, is this alliteration too much? Is this the hell's a pregnant son? What am I talking about?
I was gonna ask, but I love that you pinned on that because you take away those first two lines and then you just kind of get this Coke bottles at a movie theater parking lot, and that's like the image you're working with. The first two lines, I don't know where we are in the universe.
I'm with you, and I'm piloting the ship. So
Oh, that makes total sense now. So you have no clue what a pregnant son is?
I think what I was trying to get at is like some version of like harvest moon, but like the sunshine you get in the harvest time. But again, I was just like, I didn't want to fall down the trap of everybody talking about pregnant moon and yellow. Like, I try to like, if I do something with the cliche, I like to try to kind of twist it or play like on it a little bit. Like, I don't mind a good cliche, but like I like to try to tinker with it. But I was like, I kind of builded the lily here. Like this was a food I think Gordon Ramsay just knocked like 90% of that shit off the plate. Like, what is this?
That is so strange. Yeah, because like the rest of the poem feels so grounded and so like I don't want to say real because the first two lines are real, but the rest of the poem feels very knowable, and then the first two lines are just we're talking starshine and the sun and weakness wake like it feels very literary and like high-minded, and then the rest feels very authentic.
And that honestly, that you articulated what I'm feeling like so well just now, because like you put words to it, because it's.
I'm a
I was
genius,
just
don't
making
worry.
fun
I
of.
know. I know.
When I was just making fun of David after a while, look at me, look how smart I am, and then like the rest reads like a good Frank O'Hara poem, who's like my favorite poet ever. So it's like, or I ain't gonna try to say I'm a wrote a Frank O'Hara poem, but like that style, like that kind of more modernist kind of, like you're saying, that more grounded in like the more like the diary entry kind of thing
Hmm.
versus like up in like Greek mythology, whatnot.
Right.
Right. Perched rock?
Hmm.
Oh yes, that title. That's actually based on. Oh my gosh, it's down in Zion National Park. I have
Oh.
seen it in person. It's very well, not outside Moab. Moab, yeah.
Is it the
It's yeah,
balancing?
exactly, yeah. It's literally just like it. It's very cool. It is one of the scariest damn things I've ever done. Though I know it's safe, but I grew up watching Looney Tunes. I'm like, I'm gonna get scared. Like just looking at it.
Oh. Okay. Is there a movie theater by Perched rock?
Uh, I'll be honest. Some of my titles do tie in directly to what I'm writing, and then I grew up on like a lot of '90s alt rock, so the esoteric titles appeal to me.
Got it. Say no more.
I don't want to go like full Billy Corgan for many reasons, but more the Soundgarden, Nirvana kind of that era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else before we get to this last one, Flask of Salt?
I think that's about it on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's hear Flask of Salt then.
All right. Okay. Flask of Salt. Haggard sage of the Burgundy Desert is now the home of a scalpel bed. In the midst of the lightning, scattered like spread pellets among the bulbs of blurred city light. Hearse, filled with bleeding coils, leads a lonesome parade along a tobacco back road. Final reminder of the ragged mornings when blood on the cyclone fence.
Mm. Um, when is blood on a cyclone fence normal, and what does that mean?
uh, so, this is more, my mother's family's from Louisiana, and I would go down there about every other summer. My mom and my dad divorced when I was about 8, so kind of alternating summers. And one of the relatives we go to because they had the whole, they're gonna, you live in a comfy-ish, middle class kind of suburb, so you need to appreciate where you come from.
Hmm.
And one of the things is they had a farm, and specifically, they had cattle. And sometimes when the cattle got kind of, it's time to move out pasture, they get sort of fighting and whatnot, and they kind of bash into the cyclone fence. And then cyclone fence, it's have you ever been to like a fairground, kind of fence and they kind of mesh looking stuff? That's cyclone fence. It's usually with cattle, it's got barbed wire around it, but most of the time it's just kind of high. But there'd be like, I remember just very vividly seeing like blood dripping on like that fence and me kind of freaking out. My cousin whose farm was, it's normal. So that was kind of stuck in my head.
Wow,
That is horrific.
Yeah, but you explained that so well, and now that whole image makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
wow. Okay, so this is kind of a memory of visiting relatives in Louisiana, then.
Exactly, yeah. And that flask of salt I mentioned there, I know it wasn't a flask, but I got drug out hunting one morning. I got no problem with hunting. It's like caveat of if you're actually eating the meat, not just being like that asshole that did Jimmy John's. Just goes and
Right.
gets like tusks off elephants and shit.
Right.
Right, yeah.
But it looked like because I was I still am a giant nerd, but it was like it looked to me like one of the little vials Link would have in Legend of Zelda to like take his little potions. But it was like it was like a little flask, and it was but it was salt pellets.
For the deer?
Not for the deer. It was
Oh.
like trying to run off foxes and stuff that were kind of like 'cause
Um,
where they went hunting wasn't too far from the farmland because it was just big sprawling acreage that nobody wanted to touch because even though everybody wants to buy up everything to make houses, the nice thing about when you own a bunch of swampland, developers tend to shy away from it.
right.
So yeah, they had. I remember this very vividly. They had two guns. That one was just for the salt pellets. They kind of like fire it up to scare off the foxes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other was for the deer.
Wow. So it's like there was literally a salt pellet rifle or
Yeah, it looked like a little, almost like a little 22 rifle or something, kind of like what he shot his eye out with in Christmas Story. I must remind me of.
Okay. Yeah, this feels like, again, Dave, I think you mentioned it feels like that kind of we need the context. Yeah, like it really sweeps you up in beautiful imagery, but then you go, wait, where am I? What's happening?
And
Right.
that's, I was gonna say that's the reason I included on the bad thing of like again, I'm proud of what the words I did with it. That sounded really country.
Found-
I'm talking good. Oh Lord.
No, but I think you nailed it with that though. Like the words are really like they're beautiful and the images themselves without the context are fascinating, but with the context you get so
so
much
much
out
more.
of it.
So much more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, thank you. One of my friends, they suggested one time like he's like, you basically already kind of write short stories. He's like, you should just like
Mm.
try to write actual short story. And like, It's interesting to me, but just poetry just it speaks to me more. Like
No. I mean, you might have the hand for it. Because I think this could be a beautiful story. But without the context, I don't know what you do with this.
this is definitely far more on the diary entry, like hard on the diary entry side of things than
Mm-hmm.
the the nice
Yeah.
sweet stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. With this poem, I'm wondering as we think through like the difference between a poem and like a prose poem and then a micro fiction or something, you don't have a single punctuation in here. Is that something that you use punctuation sparsely throughout your poems, or is that something that would have been added in later had you come back and kind of polished this up?
I will say I'm not averse to using punctuation. My husband made the good point once of like you have very sweet editors that done these books because I know I'd have driven crazy about all those ampersands you like to use. Again, he's my rock and keeps me down to normal, and I appreciate that dearly.
Yeah.
Uh, but I do like I have nothing against using the punctuation, and I will, depending like how the poem kind of strikes me. But to me, when I'm writing it, it's kind of like how I read it. Like I like to kind of add my stops and pauses, like where the words kind of feel natural, like when the line
Mhm.
breaks are and stuff. Like I like to
Yeah.
play with it on that front, and then my M dash that I will not give up ever.
So you're working way more on the idea that an enjambment or a line break is an indication of a pause or a reflective breath.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Okay.
again, like, yeah, I was like, I've got between my husband and I, we've got like IKEA bookcases sprawling with books. So again, very big, like to read a lot. So it's ain't nothing against punctuation, but I just like to kind of play with the form of, I have had some friends I've shown my work to that like have MFAs and stuff, and that's not a dig at them. That's like, that's very impressive. I dropped out of college. So like, here and I'm doing these things like, oh, the stylistic show, like, this is like, yes, exactly. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
What I meant. What's that writer's name? Just so I can remember to tell somebody later.
Yes, it was after them, but I wanted it to be, subtle.
I'm glad you called this. I'm glad you called that. That's very good.
Oh, well, Clem, these are perfect bad
Yeah.
poems for this show. I'm so glad that we finally got you on. Now, I do want to talk a bit about your work because you are prolific with the chapbooks that you've put out. I've had the joy of reading one. Again, one's coming in the mail eventually. But what would you say would be like, you have two more recent ones, Kudzu and I Know Nothing But the Night. What are kind of themes or stylistic things that are the same or different about those two?
I would say what is a runner through both of them is a lot of recurring themes of like nostalgia and just kind of this, not necessarily in isolation, but like a lonesome feeling and just kind of learning to be okay with that, but like acknowledging it at the same time and
Mhm.
kind of just, trying to articulate neurodivergence in a kind of, more, I don't want to say homespun kind of way, but just more, just kind of talking about through that kind of stuff and just working through like sad memories, just
Mhm.
sad times and, embracing the good when they come because that is one thing I do like to do, even though I know it probably be, artistically inverted commas better, but I always like to end on like a little happy poem at the end of the books. But
I love that. That's nice.
and a lot of pictures throughout. I do like I'll take photos around, or I'll snag some off like free copyright websites and kind of edit them and just kind of like add as like little illustrations to kind of like accompany the text.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then as far as difference, kudzu is definitely more, to go back to that little analogy, it's definitely more on the diary side of things rather than the abstract and the unreal kind of stuff. It's a lot of like me growing up in the South and having the family that how to put like they were very loving of me, and like I lived. Again, we weren't rich by any means, but they, my folks always made sure we never, did without or anything like that. And the biggest thing is just kind of understanding, like, looking back, these feelings I had about like queerness and gender dysphoria and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and kind of like processing that and just realizing, more about myself. And again, it's like it's not like I'm not gonna say it was all good times and sunshine, but my
Right.
my folks and my family did love me. I was actually ill quite a lot growing up. I have autoimmune issues, so in the hospital quite a lot. I actually in second grade, I got chickenpox so bad they didn't know what was going on with me.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Literally, like this was like I'm kind of dating myself here, but it was like the late '90s. So my mom and dad said it was cool because they got to be in like a conference call with like some actual like pediatric specialists from over in like England or Germany.
Wow.
Because like I vaguely remember this because I was in and out of. This sounds scary. I mean, it was, but it's kind of funny. Like I was in and out of consciousness, but I do remember like the blotches weren't like the kind of like cartoony boop 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 boop. They almost looked like somewhere between like shingles and then like a poison ivy rash.
Oh gosh.
So it was just presenting itself. So apparently, I'm in a medical journal somewhere too, because it was like a teaching hospital, like on the scrub. So they're like, "Can we get them?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? Like, I don't care. Like, just, I just want my kid to be okay. It's whatever."
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
yeah, but
So
yeah. Oh, you guys, sorry.
so that kind of history, those kind of memories are being worked through or written about in your writing there?
Exactly. Yeah, because
Oh,
just kind of, and then to kind of more kind of truncate. I know nothing but the night. That is. I am a lifelong sufferer of insomnia, and my therapist said something that to try to help would be like, "Oh, you like to write poems? Like, just kind of let your mind go and wander. Like, write some poems and see if that helps you sleep." And basically, see, that's when I actually did parse out the good ones and leave the bad ones. 'Cause, yeah, just got that notebook, typed it up, and then it's kind of like I don't want to say dream journal necessarily, but just it's 3 o'clock and I have to be at work in 4 hours, but okay, sure. Like,
wow.
so it's
Okay.
definitely more kind of a, I'm very proud of the imagery of that one, but it's definitely more of the esoteric, abstract kind of trip there.
Right.
Awesome. That's so cool. And
Yeah.
we do need to wrap this up. So, we here at My Bad Poetry, we end each week with the words of a true poet. And so, would you be willing to read for us another one of your poems, one that you are indeed proud of?
Absolutely. I'll go and read the title first. If you think I'm stupid now, you should see me when I'm high, and I'm smarter than I look. And that's from, as I put on here, the magnificent song, Dumbest Girl Alive by 100 Gex, Long May They Rain.
Okay.
Somewhere out past the wheat, the corn, the cacti, the red, the red, the red, red rocks. There is a sweet stream flowing beneath an abandoned home where the wolf and the crow come together to sing with the blue dog, sing a song of sixpence, pocket full of rye. Sing a song for them lonesome, tired heads, aching hearts, the ones who took up the graveyard shift in order to give them just time away from their empty homes, in order to give them time away from their double time skulls. How lucky we are at least. The few stars we spot through the smokestack empire look just like the lights we saw in the store window displays for Christmas when we were young. Later, the microwave hums, sounds like the same rhythms your mother's lullabies used to roll on when you couldn't sleep from the cough, the ache of bronchitis, pneumonia. Tears, tears, tears. At least the first few stars you spy through the smog look so warm, so inviting. Look just like the fireworks when you won the tournament on Mario Kart on the SNES when you were homesick from third grade for the 11th time that year. Beauty is everywhere for the tired to bask in and let their lungs, let their spines, let their souls bloom with the possibilities of tomorrow.
Wow. I mean, when we were talking about grounded versus whatever, oh my God, this is hitting the nail on the head.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love it when the end poem touches on things that we've talked about. And yeah, this is like that perfect sweet spot
Yeah.
of the whimsical diary entry. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And I'm guessing from your description, would we find this in kudzu?
That is actually, I wrote that just for the show today.
Oh my gosh!
What?
Clem! You've now provided 2 poems for this show. I still need to work in the first one you sent us. That's way behind the scenes. But Clem sent us a poem about a year ago, which was awesome. And I hadn't found a proper way of bringing it onto the show. But wow. Well, we should bring you on every week and then you can write amazing poems.
Yeah.
Like,
I can start us off with the random crap that I write, and then you can blow us away with this amazing, beautiful poetry.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
This has been My Bad Poetry.
Now go write some bad poetry of your own.
Oh, perfect.
Love it.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Rhyme free doesn't matter.